Hello, everybody. I am your host, Mr. Wildcat. Hope you all having a wonderful day today, and welcome back to another Married Children review. Now, this week we are focusing on the 3 attempted TV spin-offs that were done from the show Married Children. The last time around, we reviewed the first attempted spin-off, which, in my opinion, was the worst episode of the entire show's history. Top of the heap. All right. It was a disrespect to the show's infamous milestone of making it. It's the show's 100th episode, and the use of such a huge milestone for the show was so disrespected. Okay, but you'll have to go back and check that episode to see what kind of a rating did I give, and why in detail do I consider it one of the worst episodes of all time. Go to around the 48.5 minute mark of that video. That's where the fun really begins. Okay. So today we are in for a good treat. So today we are reviewing the second attempted TV spinoff, and it also happens to be the best one of them all. Okay. We are reviewing my most favorite out of the 3, Radio Free Trumaine from season 9. So this was so Ready for Trumaine is technically the 24th episode of season 9, recorded April 7th, 1995, originally aired May 7th, 1995. So let me okay. 1 second here. So let's go to the episodes. Need to be okay. So I don't know where they got 23rd from, but I'll tell you right. Okay, there were 2 specials that wound up airing during the show's 9th season. The first one was the Best of Old Bundy, Married Children's 200th episode celebration. That is not part. That is not part of the. That is not part of the episode count overall. Okay. Neither is the TV special that wound up airing the week before, which was My Favorite Mary. So basically, in My Favorite Mary, basically you had Ed O'Neill, Katie Seagal, Christina Applegate, Deb Festino, Ted McGinley, and I don't know if Amanda Beers was in it or not, but like the main cast members, they get basically they're sitting there discussing their favorite episodes or favorite moments from the show's history. Okay, and that is not part of the episode count. So, Radio Free Trumaine is basically the 24th episode of the 9th season. Is also the 207th episode of the entire show's run. So, okay, and that does not include those 2 specials that wind up airing prior to hand. So, very interesting episode on hand because, okay, why is this a better episode? Because you have better usage of the Bundy characters. Everybody is in it. All right, even a very special cast member makes a brief appearance. Okay, or makes a key appearance in this episode, and we will get to that in just in a little bit. Okay, but anyway, we have a lot to talk about, so why don't we get through this episode, and then we will also discuss the trivia. And if you stick around long enough, we will go through like responsibilities for the dean of students, and we'll go through a little bit of what through the code of conduct bylaws from the University of Arizona. Okay, why are we going to go through it? Well, because it has a special relation to a certain part of the episode we're going to be talking about later on. So let's sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and start to laugh your ass off as we about to review Radio Free Trumaine. Okay. So the episode starts off with Kelly, it starts off in the Bundy household in the living room. You have Bud and April. They're sitting there watching bass fishing. Okay. Um, so basically, but he's played April Adams. Okay, that's the name of the actual character, played by Carrie Russell, and we'll talk a little bit about her later on. But basically, the two of them are sitting there watching bass fishing, and April is asking, like, why are we sitting here watching bass fishing? And apparently, Trumaine University is holding its spring formal, and Bud has asked April over to ask her out. And Bud is prepared to be rejected, but guess what? Not this time around. April actually accepts his offer. Okay? So basically, she has liked him ever since he started looking out through the bank, through the window at Marcy's bank. So apparently, April, she works. She's apparently training to work as a banker over at Marcy's bank, I think Kyoto, if I'm not mistaken. And she knows that Bud is not one of those guys who hides a roll of quarters in his pants to impress her. Yes, he is. He calls it immature, and he takes off the roll of coins and he throws it underneath the couch so she doesn't see it. And then she apparently walks out the door, and then the rest of the Bundys come in. You have Kelly, Al, and Peggy. They all come in. They've just come back from a fancy steak dinner where if you don't want the vegetable, they substitute a second piece of steak. All right? So let me ask you, how do you like your steak? Okay? Technically, I like mine well done. Okay? I like to make sure it's well cooked. Okay? But I am willing to go medium well if I really need to. Okay? I know that the standard cook on MasterChef, especially the U.S. version, the one temperature, like the key temperature that they focus on when it comes to cooking a steak in the MasterChef competition. Anytime they cook a steak, the judges are looking for one specific temperature, and that is medium rare. Okay, I wouldn't feel comfortable eating a medium rare steak because who knows if it's fully cooked. All right. There's been a lot of talks and stuff about people getting food poisoning, and that's why I like having my steak well done. Well, apparently all the steaks and stuff that, or at least are leftovers or doggy bags, they're in the shape of a swan. Okay. And Al comes home. He sits on the couch, and Peggy says, "Now remember our deal, Al. Whenever you get beef, I get beef." Apparently, which means that anytime Al gets to eat, they get to have sex in return. Peggy gets sex in return. So then Bud shares the wonderful news to Peggy about April taking him out to the school. April's going to take him out to school formal, but Peggy mistakes it for a no, for an answer. She wants Al to make him a cup of cocoa, but unfortunately, Al has fallen asleep. "Well, I guess you're not getting any cocoa, and of course I'm not getting any beef." She goes upstairs to get some hamburger helper. All right. Now, after watching the Married Children podcast review of this episode for a third time recently, it was brought to my attention like hamburger helper in this episode is actually a pseudonym for a vibrator. All right. Since she's not going to be getting any sex with Al, she decides to go out and get herself. She decides to go simulate herself. Now we all know, okay, that Peggy has a vibrator. All right. Why do we ask? How do we know that? Well, there's two different clues for this. First off, you have to go back to season 7, Peggy and the Pirates, okay? Which happens to be the very final episode of 7. That fucking piece of shit. Yeah, got you all worked up. um, so Peggy's going through her nightstand to find a story to tell 7. And half the stuff in there, she can't even read the 7 because it's too X-rated. Then she comes across her vibrator. Yeah, that's her vibrator, all right. And I'll tell you, the first time I ever heard of a vibrator or heard a vibrator, about 20 years ago, there was a little show on NBC late night called Late Night with Conan O'Brien. And you have like a Bill O'Reilly impersonator. Like Bill O'Reilly back then was in trouble for sexual harassment, and Conan had a little segment where Bill O'Reilly would call in and start making some inappropriate jokes, and towards the end of the call, he would start with a vibrator. Oh! Bill, is that a vibrator? You're in a no spin zone, Conan. Oh God! Bill, is that a vibrator again? Conan, cheater, hot dogs. Oh, that is it. I shouldn't have a phone out here, okay? I shouldn't have a phone. The other shows don't have phones, so why do I have a phone? And then he winds up calling back again with an even more inappropriate thing. Like one episode had a washing machine, another one had a water pick. So funny. You know, I miss the old Conan O'Brien. Like, I stopped watching him after he got kicked off the Tonight Show, but because his show on TBS wasn't as good or funny as his stuff on NBC. All right, but of course he had to change things up because a lot of the stuff that made him good was owned by NBC. All right. Oh, and the second clue about Peggy having a vibrator, you have to go to season 11, the Stefford Peg. Wow, Peggy, how did you make these smoothies so brothly? I have a battery-operated cocktail stirrer. I found it in my nightstand. Okay, Bob Rooney spits it out while Ike takes a sip. Ike, you sick bastard! You were just told that that Peggy used her vibrator in that drink. You know where that's been, right? In her pussy. Okay. So for a reference on Hamburger Helper, okay? So like I forget if this was talked about on the podcast, but Hamburger Helper it's a packaged food product manufactured by Eagle Foods, mainly packaged by Betty Crocker. That's probably the packaged pasta brand Hamburger Helper, introduced by General Mills in 1971 in response to a meat shortage and rising meat prices. In 2005, the Food Network rated it third on its list of the top 5 fad foods of the 1970s. In 2013, the company shortened the brand's name to just Helper. So there are other variations of the product designed for other meats, such as Tuna Helper and Chicken Helper. Some of these feature other starches such as potato. Now, I've never seen Chicken Helper in a grocery store, even though I know that Tuna Helper has been offered. Okay, and I tried. I've never had Helper. We never used Hamburger Helper growing up in my house, and I don't use it here because I'm afraid to cook beef. All right, because I'm afraid of getting food poisoning. All right, and if I were, like, it would be overcooked shit. All right. Did try Tuna Helper, but I don't know if I cooked it right or not, but it just didn't taste as good as I expected. But one of these days I'm going to have the balls to grab some Hamburger Helper from the store and a small thing of beef. Not from Sam's Club, but from your local grocery store. Okay, enough to where I can cook whatever beef is in there in with the hamburger helper. All right. We then move over to Trumaine's radio station, which is going to be the primary setting of the whole episode. Okay. Oh, and by the way, this first part of this episode, the only time we see Al or Kelly, even though Kelly will make a brief voice cameo in the later part of the episode, but it's the only time we see Al. Peggy will make a small appearance in a little bit later part of the show too. All right, but we're going to be moving primarily over to the Trumaine radio station with our two main characters of the episode. Okay, which are Mark Campbell and Oliver Cole. All right, this is Mark Campbell and Oliver Cole. Welcome to Trumaine Radio, where the two of us put together still are not as fat as Rush Limbaugh. You're listening to WHIP, and for those of you in the football team, that spells whip. All right. So Mark and Oliver, they're doing a radio contest to see who will win a free limo service for the Trumaine Spring Formal. Bud calls in. All he has to do is mention his name, and guess what? Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Yeah! Okay. Then we get word that Trumaine University has a new dean of students who is scheduled to be doing an interview on Saturday with Mark and Oliver on the radio show. They have dug up enough dirt to make a pig luau out of Anna Nicole Smith. Okay. And of course, Oliver tries to warn Mark, like, please, we can't slam the dean like this. We can get expelled. Okay? Tune in on Saturday, where Oliver will be dissing the dean, followed by, right after, we broadcast the Trumaine basketball game featuring our Chechen basketball star Nicholi Pushkin. He's big. He's bad. He's a commie. Guess what? He's right here. So, Nicholi Pushkin, all right? Next thing to our equation. So, he's from Chechnya. So basically, he's from Chechnya, all right? Chechnya, okay? In first level administration division of Russia. So, it is part of Russia, all right? So let me tell you a little bit about Chechnya so we can get that out of the way. So, it is a republic of Russia situated in the North Caucasus of Eastern Europe between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. The republic forms a part of the North Caucasian Federal District and shares borderlands with the country of Georgia to its south, with the Russian republics of Dagestan, Ingushetia, and North Ossetia Alana to the east, north, and west. Okay, after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, the Checheno-Ingush ASSR split into two parts: the Republic of Ingushetia and the Chechen Republic. The later proclaimed Chechen Republic of Ikaria, which declared independence, The later proclaimed the Chechen Republic of Ikaria, which declared independence, while the former sided with Russia. Following the First Chechen War of 1994 to 96 with Russia, Chechnya gained de facto independence as the Chechen Republic of Ikaria, although de jure it remained a part of Russia. Russian federal control was restored in the Second Chechen War of 1999 to 2009, with Chechen politics being dominated by the former Ikarian Mufti Ahmed Kadyrov and later his son Razmin Kadyrov. Okay? The republic covers an area of 17,300 square kilometers, or 6,700 square miles, with a population of over 1.5 million residents as of 2021. It is home of the indigenous Chechens, part of the Naka peoples, and primarily Muslim faith. Grozny is the capital and largest city. Now, I do apologize if I wind up butchering any of these pronunciations here, but I'm no Russian myself. All right. So I guess I can probably explain why. It probably explains why Nicholi is here on scholarship in the U.S. to begin with, because he's trying to get away from that fucking war out in Russia. Oh, those Russians. What will you think of next? Okay. So anyway, he decides to have a little talk with Mark and Oliver, not because of that little commie joke that they wanted making on the air, but because we find out that Nicholi has a secret crush on April Adams himself, right? And he's heartbroken that after finding out that she is going to the spring formal with another guy. Okay, so they suggest that he ask her to go study the next time that they see each other. Okay. Next scene, we are back at the Bundy household, where Bud and April are about to have their pictures taken by Peg. Say toes! Toes. Why toes? Well, in Waco County, that's what cheese is made of. Ugh. Are you fucking kidding me? That is disgusting. Ugh. Well, of course, probably may not be the most disgusting thing to come out of Waco County, but that is gross. All right. Then Jefferson Darcy, his brief appearance in the episode, he shows up. You're driving the limo? And of course, it's Marcy's idea. She thinks that Jefferson will be rocking with Hollywood's greatest, but of course, it turns out that it's just a bunch of horny college dudes that are only people he's been servicing. And if you tip him well enough, he will let the limo. He'll play a Barry White song while the limo runs out of gas. Right? So Bud plans on sweeping April off her feet. And so then they head off to the spring formal. Okay. Before we move on to any further, okay, we forgot a very integral part of the very integral scene that happened as soon as Nicholi left the radio station. Okay. We get to see the new dean of students himself, and guess who it is? Stephen Bartholomew Rhodes, Marcy's husband during the show's first 4 years of Married with Children. All right, he is back. We had last seen him in another season 9 episode, "Get the Dodge Out of Hell," where we find out that he is the chauffeur to he is a limo driver. Okay, and we eventually find out that Stephen was chauffeur to the college president. Okay, now he is the new dean of students. Mark and Oliver, they wind up running into Steve. Is it, hello, Dean Rhodes? Okay. I happen to have caught your radio show before coming over. You thought it was funny? No, not really. Before coming over here, I checked up your grades. Now that's entertainment. Anyway, I came over here to not only for the cheerleader tryouts, but I also wanted to give you the list of spontaneous questions that you're going to be asking me on my interview. This is my first interview with this university, and I don't want you future fry cooks to fuck this up for me. You want us to do a sham interview with you? You know, we might not be the brightest people out there, but we do have principles of our own. And of course, Steve has his own. Say, yeah, okay. And I have my own. Never be late for cheerleader tryouts. He goes to peek out through the window, and guess what? The cheerleader tryouts are starting, and it's windy. And he decides to go out and get himself a little peek. It's windy! Right? So then we head, okay, so we go to the Bundy household where Bud and April are having a picture taken. General Jefferson comes in to pick them up. He's the limo driver, okay? And Bud says, April, tonight I'm going to sweep you off your feet, okay? 1 hour later, Jefferson is bringing Bud, he's carrying Bud back into the Bundy household and throws Bud onto the couch. And of course, April comes back with him, okay? Thank you, Mr. Darcy. Oh, and remember our deal. You don't tell Mrs. Darcy where I was tonight, and I won't tell her that you slow dance for the homecoming queen. Okay? So apparently, why does April want this to become the secret? Well, she was supposed to, she was supposed to have been having her final bank teller exam with Marcy the night that she was going to the spring formal with Bud, and she wound up ditching it. And she doesn't want her to know. It's like, so she has some blackmail on her. So if you tell Marcy where I was, I'll make sure you get yourself. She kills you over you slow dancing with the homecoming queen. Okay. And so Bud finally regains consciousness and says, "Is it over?" "It is for you." "Well, I had a great time, didn't I?" "Sure, if you consider drinking one beer and passing out refreshments as a good time. But I need to talk to you. While you were sitting there puking your guts out, Nicholi asked me to go study with him." "The Russian basketball player?" "Oh, I knew I wouldn't have a chance to go and study." "You want to go study with me, Bud?" "Of course." But of course, April needs to have her time to think. Meanwhile, Bud is trying to persuade her. "You know Russians have tails." "It's true." Alright? We then go to commercial. And let's take a 30-second break, shall we? And we're back. So all right. So after the first act is over, we go to commercial. That is the last time we see the Bundy household for the episode. It's also the last time we see Peggy or Jefferson for the rest of the episode. The entire second act is going to take place at the Trumaine radio station. So we go back to the radio booth where Mark and Oliver are sitting there waiting for Dean Rhodes to show up for the interview. And Dean Rhodes finally shows up and says, "Okay, collegians, here's the deal. Stick to my prepared questions, and you'll live long. I'll make sure you live long enough to graduate and move back in with your parents." All right. So, all right. This is Oliver Cole and Mark Campbell here with our Dean of Students, Steve, here with Dean Rhodes. What up, collegians? Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Our first spontaneous. Okay, for our first question. So they open up the envelope and there's a list of things on the cards. How does it feel to be so powerful and yet so damn well intelligent? Very well. Very damn well. These are going to be some of the stupidest questions you can ever ask. Like, these are literally softball questions, all right, designed for somebody who doesn't like to be taking the heat. All right. This is not how radios work, but he's basically got themselves tied up to their set. He's got Mark and Oliver tied to their balls. You guys want to stay at this radio station, and you want to make sure you want to stay at Trumaine and graduate, then you're going to stick with my questions, go off script, and I'll expel the fucking hell out of you. Okay? Meanwhile, all right, while Mark and Oliver are interviewing Dean Rhodes, we are out in the lobby. Nicholi is out there waiting for Dean Rhodes' interview to be done with, because he's supposed to be. He just got done with his basketball game, and he's supposed to be doing a post-game interview with Mark and Oliver right after the interview with Dean Rhodes. Okay, and then in there we have Nicholi and April. So Nicholi is basically trying to convince April why she should go steady with him. And then a whole huge bouquet of flowers makes its way into the radio station. And April, without even knowing that it's Bud, said, "Oh, Nicholi, you brought me flowers. How sweet of you." And then Bud says, "Excuse me, these flowers are for me, Bud. Okay? Not Big Ton Young Kissy." Something like that. And Nicholi pushes Bud onto the couch. April, I must know. Are we to go study? Are we going to go study, or should I sleep with a numerous number of sluts to forget about you? Okay, and then Bud, he convinces her to. Are we going to go study, or should I watch a wide number of Baywatch sluts to take my mind off you, or something like that? They're trying to convince. They're both trying to make their cases, and before April can come out with anything out of her mouth, guess who walks into the lobby? Marcy Darcy, chicken at large. All right. Now apparently the word is out. Now we don't know if this is from Peggy, okay, because Peggy, she does a lot of talking with Marcy, or if this is, or she finally got Jefferson to spill the beans. But somehow she found out that April. Okay, now Marcy's been looking for April since last night. All right, and she's been calling her. "Where the hell have you been? Where the hell are you? You're supposed to be here taking your exam." Okay. Somehow the beans got out that April had skipped the bank teller exam to go to a party with Bud. "There you are, young lady. Now you've been dodging my calls since last night. How do you explain ditching the teller exam to go to a party with Bud?" "Oh, I was skipping a teller exam to go to a party with Bud." "April, you can't be a successful businesswoman if all you think about is men." Hypocrite Marcy. Marcy takes a one look at Nicholi, and she has an orgasm of her own. "You have to find yourself first, and then you can find a boyfriend. Or Bud. Now, come with me, and I'll give you a makeup exam." And then just as she's about to leave the station, she looks over in the radio booth. "Oh my God, that's my ex-husband! That's Steve!" Moving on to the spontaneous interview, okay? For our next spontaneous question, Dean. Okay, so Mark is now reading all the questions, okay? For our next spontaneous question, is it your resume that got you this job, or your dashly blue eyes? Steve's response, holy effing Christ. Okay? It was a ghoul of resume and blue eyes with a dash of ripe your wit. Mark is sitting there, rolling his eyes over. And Oliver, he's finally had enough. And he is about to do what a real journalist does. Come out with the hard. He's prepared to start coming out with the hard questions. And of course, this is going to come out with severe consequences. Okay? Oh, please. I've done some checking. 2 months ago, you were chauffeured to the college president. How do you explain your meteoric rise? That's not one of the spontaneous questions. I don't suppose it has anything to do with this picture you took of the president showing off his school spirit to the team mascot. This interview is over. Consider yourselves expelled. You will never study in this town again. And just as he's about to leave, he encounters the one person he doesn't want to deal with. Stevie Bartholomew Rhodes. Oh no. I can't believe you're pushing 18-year-olds around. What will you do for an encore? I think I'll look at our wedding photos and try to find your breasts. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to look really hard because they're hitting your gorgeous cousin's hands. Now that is my most favorite line out of the whole episode. I think I'll look at our wedding photos and try to find your breasts. And I even come up with a alternative response to that. Something I like to say to people either at school or work that I don't get along with. I think I'll look up your Facebook pictures and jack off to your face. Yeah, but you're going to have to look pretty hard because I blocked your fucking ass. Okay. I don't suppose anything. Okay. So the word is out. All right, and Steve Rhodes he's pissed off that the word has gotten out. He pulls the plug in the station and expels Mark and Oliver, and he walks off after telling Marcy off. Now, after he tells off Marcy, Marcy takes it very personally, and she's gonna do everything she can to get back at him. Now, this has gone personal. All right, so Mark and Oliver, after the show's been has been pulled off the air, Mark and Oliver head into the back room where Marcy goes in to talk with them. You're not going to let my ex-husband get away with this, are you? Of course not. We're going to go on over to Les. Says none of this ever happened. Okay? That's Oliver talking. And then Mark is on the phone with Starbucks. Hello, Starbucks. You got any openings? You know, in the 60s, we would have protested this kind of injustice. You know, bar the doors, seize the mics, tear the roof off the sucker! What do you say, Mark? I'm not sure. I might have to go to coffee school in the morning. That's a yes. Oh, what are we waiting for? To the airwaves. Honest students and scum-sucking administrators. 2 young righteous bros have been expelled just for exposing the truth, which we have proof of. So we have commandeered this radio station, and we're going to broadcast non-stop until Mark and Oliver are back in school, and ex-limo Stevie Rhodes admits he's a weenie. Okay. About an hour or two later. Stephen Rhodes, given to you our demands now, you are surrounded. The students have been mobilized. Okay. And the only people outside, you have Rhodes, who's sitting there with a megaphone, and then you also have this one college student with a sign that says legalize marijuana. So these are your radicals? Odd. I don't hear anybody chatting Attica, Attica. And of course, you just gave the stoner an idea. Attica, Attica. Okay. Okay, Oliver signals to Marcy. One guy. Don't worry. They will come. 2 hours later. One guy. Shall we prepare the case of our surrender? Not yet, Mrs. Darcy. This is my fight. Well, it's actually your fight. I was stupid enough to get caught up in it. But I'm going to take it. I'm going to try to get these phone lines activated. Okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to go get myself a gas mask and a mocha latte. Students, faculty, people whose radio dials are stuck. Allow me to read the bylaws of our famous Trumaine College radio station. Okay? So he's going through this huge book about as big as Gone with the Wind, and he's going through word for word about, okay, how they have the right to say whatever the hell they want. All right? Meanwhile, April, Bud, and Nicholi, they saw that the main radio booth has been emptied, okay, especially after that failed interview with Dean Rhodes. They decided to go in and shut the door and have a private conversation where it's a little more private, okay? And they start to plead their cases to April about why each of them should be going to study with April, okay? Mark, okay, he notices that Oliver's rants are going to put everybody to sleep, and he's going to basically, okay, even Marcy can't stand it. He's killing us. You see him on a school night. Don't worry, Mrs. Rhodes. I'm going to go get our. Don't worry, Mrs. Darcy. I'm going to go get our fans interested. All right. So he goes over to he sneaks himself into the main booth. Okay, he pretends to be looking for where Bud, Nicholi, and April are talking. And while they're sitting there talking, he pretends to be looking at something. He pushes a little button that switches off the. It takes Oliver off the air, and it puts Bud, Nicholi, and April's conversation on the actual air. And then Mark, he points up to the ceiling, says on the air. Okay, Nicholi takes a look at that and says, "Ooh, this is gonna be a lot of fun." All right. Then all the students start showing up in the courtroom, and Rose is not too happy with it. What's the matter with you? Get out of here! Okay. They have come! All right. And then gets to the point where Bud talks about how he's only had sex 4 times, and he's been with hundreds of women, but they weren't real. And also talks about how he is sick and tired of moaning in 2 different voices on Saturday nights, so Kelly doesn't tease him for being dateless. Okay? Nicholi said, Bud, what the hell do you want? We're on the air. Mark then walks in. Yes, you are. Of course. This is this is Hot Talk with April. And if you'd like to have this type of programming remain on the air, call the radio station, or better yet, come over to the radio station and get in call the radio station, or better yet, come into the courtyard and get in Dean Rhodes' face. So April starts taking the calls. Okay. Hi, my name is Sharon, and I think you should choose Nicholi. Second call. Oh yeah, hi, my name is Jill, and I think you should choose Bud. Yeah. And here we go. Here's the best one. Here's the best one of them all. Yeah, hi, my name is Kelly Bundy, and I think you should choose Nicholi. Bud is pissed off. He hangs up on Kelly right away, and then Nicholi, he hears what's going on. He has a huge evil grin on his face, which translates to, "See, Bud, even your sister wants nothing to do with you." Okay. Then April starts to compare Bud and Nicholi. And then we go back to the courtyard. Okay, we're on the porch where Marcy's really excited. The people have come. They're with us. Power to the people. Power to the people. And then that same stoner from before, he screams, "Take off your shirt!" So of course the stoner he thinks that Marcy's been the one on the radio, okay, all this time, but it turns out okay it was actually April. But so he mistakes her and he says like, "Why don't you take off your shirt?" Power to the people! Power to the people! Take off your shirt! Okay. So, guys, I think Mrs. Darcy's right. I think I need to find myself before I find a boyfriend. I'm sorry. Okay? So you know what that means? She's dumping them both. So Bud and Nicholi decide to go out and have a beer. And Nicholi decides that Bud should go have an alcohol-free one. Oh, an alcohol-free one for you, one, my little friend. And that's the last we see of Nicholi. Okay. Everybody in the courtyard, hot talk, hot talk, hot talk, hot talk. And they decide to give Steve Rhodes an effigy, and they're really liching him up. And then the last scene we ever see of Steve Rhodes, all right. After consideration, I've decided to give in to your demands. Mark and Oliver are back in school and on a radio station, but it's not the last you've heard of me. Okay. April, I've heard what you said about me being right. Does this mean you want to be a banker? Not exactly. I want to go to Trumaine and work at this radio station. But you've only done that for 5 minutes, and look, I'm really good at it. Fine. I'll just have somebody else work for me. Oh, Nicholi! Okay? We all know why she's going after Nicholi. Alright? Because she wants to have orgasms all day long. And I tell you right now, if you've seen some of these episodes of Married Children, Marcy really knows how to turn men on. Ever seen Banking on Marcy? Then, when the rate rose as high as they possibly could, and the economy could take more, suddenly the baby got pumping in money faster and faster. Oh yes, 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 oh Jefferson, oh Steve, oh Jamal. I hope this news was as good for you as it was for me. Good day. Okay. So, okay. Mark decides to go into Oliver's little booth and says, Oliver, you can stop now. D. Rhodes has given in. Alright. And we've also found ourselves an audience. Now that we're powerful, it's very important for us not to abuse it. So Mark, Oliver, and April, they head into the main radio station once again. They get back on the air. Okay. This is Oliver Cole. This is Mark Adams. And this is April Adams. Tune in tomorrow where we make surprise phone calls to wives of professors who sleep with students. We have names. We have numbers. We have arrived. And that is the end of the episode. So at the end of the episode, they put on the little, they turn on the sound effect and they imitate the whip, and then which is a WHIP, and then we hear some rock music in the background. Okay, a freeze frame of Mark, Oliver, and April doing the whip, and that is the end of the episode. Okay, pretty fun stuff, huh? Alright, so let's dive into the trivia because there's quite a little bit of it, okay? First, I'm thirsty. And I'm Erica, nice to meet you. Alright, let's get started. The title of this episode is a reference to the term Radio Free, which is used to denote radio stations such as Radio Free Asia and Radio Free Europe that are funded by the U.S. government with the intent to provide information and news to countries where it would otherwise be censored by the government of those countries. Okay? As I have briefly mentioned just a moment ago, this is the final appearance of David Garrison as Steve Rhodes on the show. This is the fourth and final time appearing as a special guest on the show following his departure as a regular during season 4. Okay. Now even though this is the last time we do see Steve Rhodes personally, it is not the last time we will hear about Steve himself. Steve will be mentioned at least 2 more times in the show's history. The first one will be in season 10's Kiss of the Coffee Woman.
Al, don't you see where this is going? Jefferson is getting famous, and more women are throwing themselves at him. And before you know it, he'll be gone and be all alone. It'll be just like what Steve loves. It's a very scary thing. You understand?
And the other one is in season 11, Breaking Up is Easy to Do, Part 2. Alright? And where basically, after Al walks out on Peggy, and Marcy comes in to cash in on it, Peggy asks Marcy, like,
what did you do after Steve walked out on you? I just ruined his stuff.
Okay, so Marcy tries to get Peggy to destroy a few things of Al's in order to cheer Peggy up. Okay, coincidentally, I was a guest host on both of those episodes for the Married Children podcast. Okay, go check them out. Okay, you will not be disappointed. Okay. In the explanation of how Steve became the dean of the college, parts of Get the Dodge Out of Hell are referenced, indicating that he was working as a chauffeur for the president of the college until he was able to blackmail him. This was the backdoor pilot of a proposed spin-off series starring Eric Dane, Andrew Kavovit, Kerry Russell, and David Garrison. In a 2017 interview, Julia Tablak, who played Amber throughout the 9th season, stated that she was supposed to be in this proposed spin-off, which would have featured her while focusing on Bud's life at Trumaine. She had already signed on for the project before Amber was suddenly dropped from the show and replaced with April Adams. We do not know exactly why this was so, and I'm going to make this perfectly clear, okay? Married Children Podcast, they wound up interviewing Juliet Tablak back when they were reviewing season 9, okay? This is a question they forgot to ask, and they said, like, there was time constraints. They wanted to focus more on what she had done after Married Children, so they didn't really have a chance to talk about this particular question. So, Julia Tablak, I'm not sure if she is on here watching this, but if you happen to know anything about this, let us know below, because I know there's some people at the Married Children Podcast, especially some of their viewers, that would be interested to know about that. Okay? A few years after appearing on this episode, Kerry Russell became known for starring in the WB series Felicity. One of her co-stars on the show, Ian Gomez, who previously appeared on Married Children as one of the car wash employees, called in Get the Dodge Out of Hell. Okay. Kerry Russell also appeared in the film Honey, I Blew Up the Kid with Rick Moranis, who also played Ed O'Neill's brother in the movie Little Giants. Okay. Now, Kerry Russell, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid was the sequel to the 1989 hit film Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. All right. So basically, in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, it takes place 3 years after Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Evidently, shortly after the events in the first movie, Wayne and Diane wind up having sex. Shocker. And they wind up having another baby boy called Adam. And Amy has gone to college, while Nick is now a high school student, and who is trying to flirt with ladies. Kerry Russell plays the babysitter, or is supposed to be the babysitter for Adam, and she eventually becomes an interest in Nick. Winds up having an interest in Kerry Russell's character. Okay, he winds up having a crush on her. So, and they get a little intimate towards the end of the film. Okay. I know there is one scene from there's one line from that film. Okay. Oh my God. Pretty shocking. Okay. So as the baby is growing bigger, by the time he escapes the house, he's about 14 feet tall, and Nick and the babysitter they go to chase after him, and by the time they see the shape of Adam as he's storming out of the house, and she says,
There's no way I'm changing those diapers.
"Come on, we gotta go get him." And by the time they finally do recover, by the time he finally gets recovered, he's in the Las Vegas Strip, 110 feet tall, and eventually has to be accompanied by his mother in order for him to stand still for about 12 seconds so he can get them shrunk back to regular size. Okay, that film actually did make a profit. Okay, it was a nice film, and it actually made profit, believe it or not. Okay. There was another film in the series, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, which was it took place a few years later. It basically was it was a straight-to-video release, so it never hit the theaters. But basically in that one, Adam and Nick are grown up and out of the house. Adam is a teenager, and both Wayne and Diane, along with Diane's sister Patty and her husband, they all get shrunk in Wayne's house. Okay? Interesting film. Go check it out if you have not done so already. It is revealed that Bud is not able to handle a beer, so as he passed out after just having the one beer. Bud confirms that he's only had sex a total of 4 times, previously mentioned in User Friendly when Dr. Kessler looks at Bud's answers. Joseph D. Reitman, who plays the stoner with the legalized marijuana sign, he previously appeared on Married Children as Kelly's boyfriend, Genghis. Okay, I'm not sure exactly which episodes he was part of, but pretty interesting to see that. Now we're going to move on to some cultural references. So, around the WHIP station, WHIP, there are various promotional posters and stickers of real-life bands and record labels. Rhino Records, Boys to Men, an album cover for the 1994 album Crazy Sex Cool by TLC, Pantera, an album cover poster for the 1993 album 12 Play by R. Kelly, poster for the 1994 album Deso by John Anderson, a sticker with the logo for Depeche Mode located on the window by booth A, sticker with the logo for Public Enemy located on the booth A door, vinyl record of the 1992 album Happy Nation by Ace of Base located in the window divider between booths A and B. During their introduction, Mark and Oliver tell the audience that their motto is, "Together, we're still not as fat as Rush Limbaugh." Rush Limbaugh was a radio personality and author who was considered one of the premier conservative voices in the United States during the 1990s. At the time, he was known to be rather heavy-set as well as a constant cigar smoker. He was previously made fun of by Buck in I Want My Psycho Dad Part 1. Even Rush Limbaugh could outrun the Dodge. Okay. Father was a huge fan of he was a huge fan of Rush Limbaugh. Okay. During those 3 hours that Rush Limbaugh was on, you weren't able to talk to him because Rush Limbaugh came first. Okay. He would listen to him while he was at work. He would listen to him while he was in the car. He would listen to him when he was at home. Okay. During those 3 hours, you couldn't talk to him because he was all tied into Rush Limbaugh. Okay. And I'm not sure what he's, after Rush Limbaugh passed away a few years ago, I'm not sure what he has got himself into, but we won't go into that. Okay. Mark tells the audience that he has dug up enough dirt on this mystery man to make a luau pit for Anna Nicole Smith. Nicholi Smith was an actress and Playboy playmate, known for her curvaceous body that was not the norm for a model, and for having a voracious appetite, as Mark alluded to. At the time this episode was filmed, she had recently married a millionaire who was 89 years old and accused of being a gold digger by the media. Okay, Nicholi Smith was also, one film I definitely remember her in was the 1994 film Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult. She was Rocco Dillon, who's the villain in the film. He broke out of prison and he's planning on blowing up the Academy Awards to land a $5 million prize by an Arab terrorist named Papshmil. The same guy who apparently was going to pay Ricky Montalban's character $20 million to have Queen Elizabeth II assassinated in the first Naked Gun film. Okay. Okay. So basically, she sit there and play Rocco's girlfriend, and basically, one thing I definitely remember is that towards the end of the film, Frank has her secluded in the dressing room, and she's trying to seduce him. She pulls down her dress and underwear, and we find out that Tanya Peters, okay, that's the character she played. Tanya has a penis. It's a Crying Game reference. Leslie Nelson, who plays Frank Drebin, he sees it, and he throws up in the tuba on the stage at the Academy Awards. And then you have this guy in the control booth says, "Make a mental note. I don't think we should have Phil Donahue back next year." Go check out. That's a funny movie. Go check that out. And, oh my god, would you believe that Nicholi actually had a TV show of her own in 2002 called The Nicholi Show? Pretty, okay. Who that? I was smart enough not to watch it, but, like, I feel sorry for whoever was stupid enough to watch it, okay? Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So that's, okay. Mask of Darth Vader from the Star Wars franchise can be seen stacked up near a window in Booth A and painted red. When Nicholi tries to warn Bud about their conversation with April being recorded on the radio, Bud tells him, you'll get your shot, Hoop Dreams. Hoop Dreams is a 1994 documentary film about two African-American teens from Chicago who try out for a pretentious high school basketball team and dream of playing professionally for the NBA. Excuse me 1 second again. This is what I get for talking nonstop for a whole hour. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. We're almost done with the trivia. Okay. After Bud suggests that he and Nicholi get a beer after April dumps the both of them, Nicholi says, "Okay, but and a deuce for you, little friend." A Duels is a low-alcohol beer that has less than 0.5 ABV and made by Anheuser-Busch, who also makes Budweiser beer. Okay? So that is Radio Free Trumaine in a nutshell. So you guys are probably wondering, all right? So the Married Children podcast, one thing I like to talk about is that they're trying to figure out like what kind of a dean was Steve Rhodes about, and like what are their responsibilities, and what kind of powers do they actually have? Okay, So I know we know that Stephen, he was mentioning about Stephen and Jerry and Luigi. They were the three people who appeared on that episode for the podcast. And I know they talked about something about about college deans and stuff like that. Yes, there is a dean for each individual college. Okay, they're pretty much in charge of all the faculty for their respective okay, so you have the college dean, and you have the department heads, and you have the faculty that falls under them. It's like the organization tree. So university president, and you have the vice presidents, and you have the college deans, and then under each college dean you have like the each department head for each of the respective departments under that particular college, and then all the different faculty that works under that particular for each of those individual departments. Okay, so that is one of the deans. Okay, the dean that Steve Rhodes is part of is actually a dean of students. All right, and they have quite a interesting definition. So when you type in dean of when you type in dean of students on the Google website, the first thing that pops up, this is a definition that comes specifically from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Okay, the dean of students oversees an office that includes several staff, such as associate deans, coordinators, and case managers, who support students' overall academic and personal success. Specifically, the Dean of Students Office oversees the campus, non-academic, and academic misconduct processes. Okay, so so the duties of a Dean of Students, according to Indeed.com. Okay, a higher education advisor is another term for it. So they oversee student life, student services, and on-campus activities. Their duties include providing support for students, addressing student behavior, and coordinating admissions and new student enrollment. Okay? What do you call the Dean of Students? So, the Dean of Student Affairs. All right? There's another one that's called. Oh, here is something that Stephen should take a note of. Okay, I know he's a teacher and stuff, but this is, we're piggybacking off of what he has added on. So here is the difference between a dean and dean of students. Okay, many colleges and universities have a position known as dean of students, who is in charge of student affairs, and a dean of the faculty, who serves as an intermediary between the higher administration and faculty in the school's day-to-day administration. Okay, so is the dean of students important? They help navigate challenges such as personal crisis, emergencies, anticipated financial challenges, other unusual situations. Okay. Dean of Students Office also helps students who would like to submit a complaint or concern by sharing processes and options. Okay. All right. The Dean of Students, all right. So we're going to talk about what the Dean of Students is at the University of Arizona, my alma mater. Okay. I've had to go through something like this myself when I was in college. So this is probably the best way of explaining what this is. So so let's take a look. So basically, one of the things that the Dean of Students is in charge of is student behavior on a college campus. While I do admit that what Rhodes did, what Steve did to Mark and Oliver is illegal and unethical, all right? He's basically he's allowed to have his way with it because he can get away. He can easily get away with it because he has blackmail power over the university president. Okay. But in real life, Steve would not be allowed to automatically do such a thing. So I have the student code of conduct that is up in front of me. Okay, so it talks about a lot about like what the powers are by the dean and the president's office and stuff like that. So basically, under the code of conduct, Section A, jurisdiction and authority. Okay. Under Arizona law, the Arizona Board of Regents is responsible for the control and supervision of the state universities and their properties and activities. The board is authorized to enact ordinances for the governance of the universities and maintenance of public order upon all property in its jurisdiction. The board has promulgated the Student Code of Conduct in order to meet its responsibilities under Arizona law. Enforcement of this Student Code of Conduct is subject to applicable law, including constitutional protections for speech, association, and the press. Okay. So basically, university presidents are authorized to enforce the Code of Conduct. They're also authorized to limit the application of this policy with the respect of university property leased by the university to third parties. Okay. Let's see. Students may be accountable to both civil and criminal authorities and to the university for acts of misconduct that constitute violations for the Code of Conduct. At the discretion of university officials, educational interventions or disciplinary action at the university may proceed before, during, or after these other proceedings. Sanctions may be imposed for acts of misconduct that occur on university property or at any university-sponsored activity. As further prescribed in these rules, off-campus conduct may be subject to educational interventions or discipline. Okay, so they have the right, like individual student behavior as well as the behavior of a club or organization. Okay, so this is the type of thing that they look at. Okay. So basically, so how it namely works is like if the dean of students, okay, if somebody submits a report to the dean of students office, a complaint about another individual that is either a student or faculty at the university, they will conduct a interim research, okay, and find out whether or not they may have violated a policy in the student code in the code of conduct. If they find out that you have been involved in a violation, they will send you a written notice saying that you are under investigation for these particular incidents, which violate this, and this. Okay. They are required to attend. Okay, those who are under investigation, they are asked to attend a meeting with the actual dean of students, so they can discuss, so that they can discuss everything that's going on, and they also discuss the procedures and everything else that the subject needs to understand. It also gives the subject an opportunity to make a statement about what has happened, and then they take the weight. The dean will take the weight between the two factors, which one has the greater weight. All right, and based on many different factors, they will decide what to do. So let me go through some of the things. So let's see. Oh, here we go. So there are. Let me go through some of the things like. Here are some of the examples of violations of the code of conduct. So this is prohibited conduct, okay? Academic dishonesty, okay, which includes cheating, fabrication, facilitating academic dishonesty, plagiarism, okay? Endangering, threatening, or causing physical harm to any member of the student university community or to oneself. Violating the terms of any disciplinary sanction imposed for an earlier violation. Violation or attempt to violate other rules adopted by the board. Impersonation of another, using another person's identity or furnishing false information, including manufacturing and possession of false. So suppose you you go into a classroom and you pretend to be another student. Okay. You assume the identity of that particular person, and you complete the coursework on their behalf. That is a violation of the code of conduct. Okay. Initiating, causing, or contributing to any false report, warning, or threat of fire, expulsion, or other emergency, such as like providing a calling up a university office saying there's a fake bomb threat. Okay, they find out who you are, you can get busted for that. Fail to comply with directions of university officials or agents, including law enforcement or security officers, acting in good faith performance of their duties. Okay. Forgery, falsification, fabrication, unauthorized altercation, misuse of campus documents, records, or identification. Okay. Unauthorized presence in or unauthorized use of personal property, resources, facilities. Unauthorized access to or disclosure of use of any university document, record, or identification. Interfering with or disrupting university or university-sponsored activities. Misrepresenting oneself or of an organization as an agency of the university. So pretend that you are acting on behalf of the university when you're not. Possession of property the student knows or has reason to be stolen or misappropriated. Misuse, theft, misappropriation, destruction, damage, or unauthorized use, access, or reproduction of property, data, records belonging to the university or belonging to another person and entity. Violation of the board or university rules, okay, of governing alcohol. Underage drinking would be under this thing, but like consumption, distribution, unauthorized sale, or possessions. Like if you are drinking underage or you knowingly provide alcohol to an underage student, that is a violation. Unauthorized sale, use, possession, or distribution of illegal drugs or substances. Okay. Off-campus conduct. So, for example, you're smoking in the college dorm. The resident assistants, they catch you. You get reported to the university police. They submit a report to the dean of students office. You're under investigation for smoking marijuana in a college dorm, which is against residence life policy. Okay. Gambling is illegal. Hazing. Okay. Engaging in supporting, promoting, or sponsoring hazing or violating the board rules governing hazing. Stalking or engaging in repeated or significant behavior towards another individual, whether in person, writing, or through electronic means. Engaging in discriminatory activities, including harassment and retaliation, as prohibited by applicable law. Interfering with any university review, investigative, or disciplinary process, including but not limited to tampering with physical evidence. So suppose that you're under investigation with UAPD, you try to, or somebody's under investigation, and you try to tamper with that evidence. That's a violation. Sexual misconduct. Use, possession, display, or storage of any weapon, danger, instrument. Okay. Basically, like weapons, bombs, fireworks. Okay. Explosive devices. Okay. Photographing, videotaping, filming, digitally recording, or any other means secretly viewing with or without a device another person without the person's consent in any location. So suppose Like in the 1984 film Revenge of the Nerds, okay? When the nerds, they break into the sorority house and they're videotaping all those women naked in the bathrooms and taking off their clothes and stuff. That would be a violation. Okay, the nerds would be under investigation for peeping on these people. Like that would be a violation. We've got Bush.
Oh, hair pie.
Well, it's a conversation for another day. Okay, and I eventually do plan on reviewing Revenge of the Nerds, so be on the lookout for that. Smoking, yada yada yada. So these are the different types of disciplinary actions that the university can take. So you can be expelled, okay? You can be suspended. Your degree they can revoke your degree, okay? You put on probation. Probation basically removes the student from good standing, from good conduct standing. Additional restrictions or conditions may also be imposed. It'll last for a stated amount of time until specific conditions, if imposed, have been met. Any violation of the rules, the conditions of probation, or other university rules committed during the probationary period will be subject to further disciplinary action, including suspension and expulsion. A written warning, okay? Administrative hold. So basically, it prevents students from registering for further classes, receiving transcripts, or graduating from the university until clearance has been received. Okay, so like in my case, the dean of students said you have to schedule a meeting by a specific date, and if you do not meet by this specific date, then an administrative hold could be put on you, or like you are being fined this amount of money. If this is not paid by this date, we will put an administrative hold on your account. You will not be allowed to register for further classes. You will not be allowed to graduate. You will not be receiving further transcripts, yada, yada, yada. Okay? Restricted access to university property. They can take away your email address, your logins for other computerized access to the university, such yada, yada, yada. Organizational sanctions. Okay? This is for clubs and organizations. So suppose in the 1978 film Animal House, okay, where they're under investigation for the toga party, okay. And, well, before then, the dean would put them on double secret probation. It's unheard of, okay, in this policy, but they were already put on probation prior to the film's start, and basically the dean kicks the Delta house off the campus. Okay. Interim action. Dean students may impose restrictions on a student or suspend a student for an interim period of time. Academic conduct. Okay. Lower level warnings, administrative drop from a particular class, other sanctions, yada yada yada. Restitution, notation on transcript, other sanctions permissible under existing university rules. Okay, so if you are suspended, you cannot appeal any of these sanctions except for suspension and expulsion. Okay, and if you are suspended or expelled from the University of Arizona, you are ineligible for admission, re-enrollment, enrollment, re-enrollment, or readmission to any of the other state universities that are owned by the Arizona border regions. So if you are kicked out of one school, you cannot attend any of the other schools. So University of Arizona, Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University. So these schools, you are banned from all three. And if you are expelled, okay, not only are you not allowed to attend any of these three universities, but you're also not even allowed to step foot on any of these state universities. So suppose you want to go, you get expelled, you want to go to a college football game. Well, unless that college football game, suppose you want to go to a U of A versus USC football game. Well, unless that game is played at the LA Coliseum, you're not going to be allowed to watch the Arizona Wildcats and the USC Trojans play in person. Okay? Each university may adopt rules and procedures to consider requests for readmission. Who has been previously suspended or expelled, which shall include criteria to be used in evaluating a request for readmission and shall provide the decision to readmit must be approved by the Vice President of Student Affairs at the readmitting university. Okay, so this is what they use to decide the sanctions. Okay, mitigating and aggravating factors may be considered. Factors to be considered in mitigating and aggravation include the individual's poor conduct record, the nature of the offense, severity of any damage, injury or harm resulting from the violation. They can look at your past records. Like if this is the first time that you have been this is the first time you've been in trouble or anything like that, that's one thing as well. That's another thing as well. So they do tend to go a little lenient on you, but in order to prove that this is going to be the only time that you're going to be doing this, they'll want you to prove yourself by. So that's why probation may be put on a first timer, saying like, we know that you are not a bad person, but in order to prove that this is going to be the only time that this is going to happen to you, we're going to put you on probation, and if anything else happens, we can suspend or expel you. Something in that matter. Okay. Student sanctions shall be enforced through the use of procedures by the Code of Conduct. So, long and short of it, if Steve Rhodes was to use this particular policy, all right, that I just mentioned for this U of A Student Code of Conduct, he wouldn't last very long. Okay, his expulsion would not be valid. All right, you have to have a really good reason. Blackmailing, that is technically not. Technically it's unethical. So, like, at the very least, Steve Rhodes would be fired for misuse of power. All right, but of course he does have blackmail with the president, so that might not happen after all. Okay, so that is okay. That's the review in a nutshell. So let me take a look at what we thought of the episode. Okay. So basically, like I said at the beginning, out of the 3 episodes that Married Children did for attempted spinoffs, this is my most favorite of them all. You have everybody, all right? Even if it's only for a couple seconds, okay? You have Kelly that makes a brief appearance at the beginning and a brief audio appearance towards the end. You have Al, brief appearance at the beginning. You have Jefferson, who appears for a minute or two. You have Peggy. All right. This episode focuses primarily on Bud, so we see Bud most of the time, and then we see Marcy. We also see Marcy and Steve throughout a majority of the second half as well, even though we only see them together in one particular episode, one particular clip. Yes, things could have been a little better. Like, you could have had like Steve interact with Al or Jefferson or something like that. I don't know what you could have done, but overall, I actually like this episode. So I know the Married Children podcast did not like this episode, but I kind of actually liked it. Okay. But and not in a case, I'm not going to give this a 5 out of 5, of course, because it doesn't deserve it. But I think it's the only one with out of the 4 episodes that Steve Rhodes returns to the show. This is the only one that does not get a 5 out of 5. Okay, but I think they did really well with what was going on, and it makes me also wonder as well, what would have happened with David Garrison's character if if Radio Free Trumaine had actually gotten picked up. Okay, was he going to go on with it? Was he going to move on to the new show? Because we all know that David Garrison, he left Married Children because David Garrison was a huge star on Broadway. He had a huge passion for Broadway. He was on Broadway like even though he did a few shows before Married Children, and that's why he got hired to star on Married Children in the first place. But he had a passion for Broadway. He was huge on Broadway before doing these shows on in Hollywood. He missed Broadway. He wanted to go back to Broadway, and he wasn't sure how much longer Married Children was going to last. So so once they get into the fourth season, he said, "I don't want to do this anymore. I like to go back to Broadway." And they basically started writing an opportunity to phase him out of the show so that he can go back to his passion on Broadway. But they also did it in a way to where like they didn't kill his character off, because they wanted to be able to give him an opportunity to come back every now and then if he wanted to do so. Okay, which they wind up doing. Okay, so this is probably the weak. Yeah, I do agree this is the weakest, but I think he did really well. But I kind of liked what he did with it, or I liked it better than what the podcast team said that he did with it. All right. Couple of things I liked from the episode. I liked the clip where Steve winds up telling Marcy, "I think I'll look at our wedding photos and try to find your breasts." That put Marcy in her place. Okay. I also like the clip where Kelly phones in to the radio station and has no support for Bud.
Hi, this is Kelly Bundy, and I think she was Nicholi.
And Nikolai's huge smile on his face. That says it all. And then when Marcy is screaming, "Power to the people," yeah, that's one stoner who screams, "Take off your shirt!" I like that one too. All right. So those are the things I like the best. Okay. I remember, like, when I first watched the episode, I never knew this was an attempted spinoff, and I never knew what to think of it when I first watched it. All I knew was, like, this is Married Children, okay? But, of course, probably make it a little, like, and who are these people, all right? I never knew it was an attempted spinoff, and I also did not know that it was not as good as what they were wanting it to be. But it still passes in my book, all right? I forget what they gave this episode. I think they probably gave it like a 1 or 1.5, 2 or something like that. But in my books, okay, back when Married Children Podcast reviewed this episode, I gave this episode, I think it was like a 3 or something like that. 3.5, okay? This episode is going to get a 3.5 out of 5 for me. That's how much I liked it. I do have to give them extra credit for remaining in continuity. Okay, so it would have been a 3, but I am giving a 0.5 point extra credit for being constant with the continuity. Okay, Marcy and Steve are ex-husband and wife. They are divorced. It talks about Steve's journey from being a chauffeur the last time he was here to being a college dean now. Okay? And we find out why we had that huge change. So, okay. It would have been interesting to see like how Amber would have been fitted into this episode. Okay? But I guess saying like one thing I do know is that David Faustino and Juliet Tabb, like, they dated each other during Juliet's appearances on the show. My guess is these two broke up or something towards the end of the season. They were afraid that these guys were going to bicker with each other on the air, so they decided we're going to pass Juliet over for Carrie Russell. But that's my guess. Okay. But overall, I actually like the episode. Okay, that's Radio Free Trumaine in a nutshell for you. Join us on our next episode. We're going to be coming up this weekend. Even though I've already reviewed Enemies, okay, in one of my earliest Married Children reviews on my channel, we are going to revisit the show, okay? And I know that everybody at the Married Children podcast is throwing up right now because they didn't. It is considered they consider it the worst episode or one of the worst episodes in Married Children history, to a point where they had to shoot down a shitload of liquor in order to get through the episode. Okay, and but you know what? That's what makes it even more funnier. Okay, and one thing I did tell Annabelle, all right, a while back on some Facebook group. Sometimes the worst episodes in the show's history can turn into some of the best and most entertaining reviews you can ever dream of. Okay? We did review Enemies before, but we are going to be revisiting it. And we're going to be doing it in a way which coincides with how I've been doing my episodes recently. So, it's time to rank up the liquor, because we are going to be binge watching, because we're going to be chugging away. We're actually going to be doing exactly what the Married Children podcast did. Okay? So grab your liquor and your sanity, because you guys are going to need it for the next episode of Married Children. Till the next time we meet, Mr. Wildcat is here reminding each and every one of you to be good, be careful, and behave.